I wanted to ask you, what motivates you? Is it fear, or you're a person who does like a lot of different things, and those kinds of people, they usually have a really strong reason as to why they're doing what they're doing. So what is that for you?
Yeah, so I feel like it definitely starts off with fear first because I feel like I can see it now looking back at some of my work. One of the things that I would say I missed is that I feel like I didn't really put myself entirely into some of my work. Like I feel like I could always have pushed it a little more to make it my own project or assignment that really stood out to be, oh, this is something Michelle did. And others might disagree, but that's just how I personally feel about my work and I'm always critical of it. But I feel like in the past, I focused so much on just trying to make sure I beat the deadline, making sure that I didn't come in with an unfinished assignment. Because I feel like maybe it's a thing that I got from school, because I went to a school that was pretty academically driven. And if you didn't like succeed, then you're kind of just deemed as a loser back in that time. So it was just like I just felt like I really needed to do well and just make sure I got it done and got a decent grade or something. So I feel like that kind of ruled me over more so than this is my passion in life. I sacrificed things and my time and just spending time with friends just to be here. Like, I feel like I do have some ounce of that in me back then, but at the same time, it wasn't the thing that was entirely driving me. But I feel like after I started working in animation was when those feelings of, oh, this is something I've wanted to do since I was little, like that started to come into the picture more. Because first of all, the nice thing about working in the industry versus doing your own student assignment is that you're kind of just like, we're all working on something together. It's not just your film anymore. It's like everyone's film and you're working as a team on this. You're delegated a certain task and you only have to focus on that task, which is really nice compared to having a film that you have to do everything on for. Now you are like, oh, I only have to focus on the storyboarding today. So I feel like that pressure of getting something done after you enter the industry versus your student film kind of gets taken away just because you only have like really one job to focus on, whether if you're a storyboard artist, a concept artist, or animator, like you're only really doing that thing. So just focusing on storyboarding helps save on the time aspect, and saving on the time aspect helps get rid of some of the fear of not being able to finish on time. And now I feel like, oh, I can focus and remember why I'm here in the first place. And like sometimes when I work, like when I used to enter the studio first thing in the morning, like just putting on some music and just having a moment of acknowledging like, hey, I wanted to do this since I was 12 and I'm doing it right now. That's awesome. Then like that with the music together just really like gets you motivated, and then I feel like you end up being more focused and you tend to work faster when you're focused because you're not distracted by other things. So I feel like that kind of is what is driving me now. And that's not to say that the fear of not finishing doesn't exist anymore. It still does. Like I still am fearful of not like juggling things properly. Like now that I do comics on Instagram and YouTube videos too, I'm just like, I want to make it a goal to upload weekly. And now it's like, oh, let's make sure I can keep that up while still having a full-time job and everything. But I guess like the difference is now that like, even if I don't upload a video or post a comic, like no one's really going to be punishing me other than myself. Like there's not a school or institution that's going to grade me on not uploading every week. So yeah.
Do you think if you didn't have like those deadlines in place, or say like you never like got into the animation industry for some reason, um how much would you still be doing like on your own? How much art and stuff? How would that affect it?
Yeah, so I honestly don't know if I would be doing as much art just because I feel like the discipline aspect really does help a lot with actually producing things. Because prior to going to CalArts, I was also just drawing during my spare time, but I was kind of working on that whole concept of not having any deadlines or not having like anyone really holding me accountable. And during that time, I was pretty aimless. And that's not to say that anyone without a schedule is going to be aimless. It was just for me when I don't have a schedule or like a plan for myself. I don't really know what to do. So I end up just working on something and I either ditch it and I never finish it, or I just spend days and days and days working on this one random thing and then it never sees the light. And I don't know, like things that I work on when I don't have a schedule or plan for them just kind of end up in an art dump. Like I used to make these compilations of sketches and doodles that kind of just, I doodled it this one time, but it never went into a project. It never went into anything bigger or beyond just being a doodle. And I think, that can be its own form of art. Just having a sketchbook of just miscellaneous art, like that in itself can be a project. But I felt like for me, that wasn't really what I wanted to do in life. And I just didn't really get any fulfillment out of it other than just having this gallery of unfinished art. So I just like, that's kind of why I was just like, I need to go to a place that's going to start to hold me accountable and make me get things done. Cause I feel like when I don't have a schedule or any constraints, I feel like I end up just doing things so randomly and aimlessly that I don't know, it's like peaceful in the moment for me to do for sure. And it's relaxing when you can just put on some music and listen to a video and just draw whatever and have nothing bound to you about it. But then afterwards in the long term, I start to wonder, like, what am I doing all of this for? So yeah.
So, what motivates you? Like, you're one of those people that do like so many things at once, and usually those kinds of people, they're able to do all of these different things because they have a really strong reason why. So, what is that for you?
So for me, when I grew up, like I kind of grew up in an environment where, first of all, just to say for the record, my family is great. They are loving and that they have nothing to really do with this. But I feel like I grew up in an environment where emotions were not really encouraged or like they were often looked down upon. And like even in the schools that I went to, the teachers were always kind of jaded and the students were always just so focused on academics and like being sad or crying or like having any form of nuanced emotion is like weird to them. And I feel like just growing up, I've always wanted to have really close relationships with the friends that I built, but for some reason, no one ever really wanted that. But I also understand now that, when you're young, you don't really know what you want, and you kind of go out and explore different friendships and relationships, which leads to some friends just ditching friends. And I feel like emotions overall was a thing that I feel like made me that was looked down upon and I felt bad for having emotions sometimes. And art was kind of my only form of escape during that time to really think about things that made me feel something. And whenever I drew, I feel like I was finally able to voice the things I've wanted to say because not only was like I felt like my emotions were being like repressed or anything, but I felt like just being able to talk to people was a struggle of mine. I had struggles just even communicating to people, which heavily links to what we were talking about earlier. I felt like I couldn't really put certain words in like into sentences. So drawing was my way of kind of expressing things that I wanted to say to people and how I felt.
I'm
So
sorry
drawing,
that it cut out.
oh
One more time.
sorry.
So, you were just talking about how art helped you release all those repressed emotions?
Yes. So art kind of helped me just communicate and release emotions that I felt were repressed. And I was also struggling just speaking as a young girl. Like what we said earlier, I had a fear of public speaking or just even talking to anyone in general. I was always shy. So speaking through art was my way of really knowing what it is I wanted to say, whether if it was about a societal issue or a self issue or mental health issue or anything like that. I felt like art was my way of telling others things that I've wanted to say. So I feel like my motivation kind of came as I was drawing more because at first you kind of just are like, I love doing art. It just feels great when I draw and it turns out good. Okay. But then as time went on and I shared my art online, then that's when you see people say things like, your art really helped me get to do this in life. You really helped me overcome this. And I was like, I, I did that. What? Like, because I'm just drawing, but I didn't realize that whatever message I had in my art would really impact people in certain ways. But that's ultimately what animation is too, is like we're all creating these messages to help either better society or better certain issues that we see in our world or in individuals. And I feel like that was something that I really wanted to do with my art as I saw it kind of coming to play with my own little audience that I was building on the internet. So I think just knowing the films that really got me to feel emotional about it, because they just had such a strong message that really motivates people. And especially in this day and age where I feel like there's just so much going on, I feel like we just need these reminders that, like, hey, this is a time to come together and work together, like things like that. It seems so corny, cheesy, and overly simple when I just say it like this, but when you see how animations, films, or art or music kind of expresses this in its art form, it's just like this entire experience that is more than just like this sentence that I'm blurting out. So I feel like working on a project like that to either help benefit society or just helping individuals feel better about themselves or their lives, or just doing something to help positively move something forward is like the least that I wish to do with my art, because I feel like just seeing how people normally just call art like not a real job, or just like just saying that it's not valid, I think it's such BS, because I'm like, you can't really feel motivation to do something until you have that emotional push to do so. And I feel like art, animation, film, music, like it all makes people feel emotions. And if we're going to put a message in it to do like something good for the world or good for yourself or good for someone you love, like that's gonna potentially be a way to help motivate someone else to do something. So I guess TLDR, like knowing that what I'm doing is going to help motivate someone else motivates me.
That's really cool. That kind of positivity and light definitely like shines through, especially in your comics.
Yeah, I just saw Raya and the Last Dragon this weekend.
Ooh.
I won't spoil it, but after
Yeah, please
watching
don't. I
it,
haven't watched it yet.
yeah, I was just like, well, yeah, this is why I want to do what I want to do.
Oh, that's awesome. When you encounter a problem, usually what's the first thought that comes to your head?
So when I encounter a problem, I think the first thing I'll feel is frustrated, just because problems can be annoying, but I'll acknowledge it. And then afterwards, I think I normally come up with a game plan of how to tackle it. So I guess it depends on what type of problem, because normally if it's something like the huge assignment that we talked about earlier, I'll just pull out my planner and just assign parts of it to work on each day throughout the week. But sometimes if it's something that's more like a story problem, or something that's just one concept of a problem within a story that we have to solve, or I have to solve for my own projects, I kind of just would approach it in different ways. Like first I would try to thumbnail it out to see how it plays out. Then I would write it out like a diary entry as if I'm the character and what I would do, because honestly, I feel like being genuine and authentic is going to be important when you're tackling problems.
Yeah, for sure. I do that with acting stuff
Yeah. Oh
too.
my gosh, that's so cool. So, I mean, yeah, things like that. I mean, is it the same for you then when you tackle problems?
Yeah, pretty much. I grew up being an artist first, and then public speaking, then acting.
Wow.
So it all kind of like ties in, like especially the stuff that you learn in acting. It's very like therapeutic because you have to use your own emotions to do it out. So it's really easy to, like how you said, get into the mind of another person and see that universally we all kind of just want the same things.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think that's just one of the things that's just really beautiful about art, animation, or any form of art, is that at the end of the day, it all kind of comes back to just being a human and just the psychology behind it. And it's not like you have to do some crazy math or anything to figure out how to solve it, which is why I'm not in computer science or anything like that, because I'm much more better at, figuring out emotions and reasonings behind why people do things. I'm not a pro at it for sure, but just, understanding character motivations is just honestly therapeutic for myself too. So
Yeah, for sure. What were you scared of at the start of your career, and has that changed?
at the start of my career, I think I was really afraid of not being accepted. I think everyone has some level of imposter syndrome. And I think looking back now, I feel so silly about feeling that way, but I still do have some level of imposter syndrome for sure. And I don't think it's ever going to go away. And sometimes I think it's okay that it exists, and sometimes it's annoying that it exists. But I feel like when I first entered the industry, one of my biggest fears was just like, oh, I feel afraid of if I reached out to an industry professional or if I worked under someone that I admired, but they just thought I was stupid or unskilled and they just think that I'm a bad artist and wonder why I'm here. I don't know why. Like, I was always afraid to go up to people in the industry that I admired, because at CalArts we had all these guest talks and stuff like that. And by the end of every talk, students would go up to the person who came and just like ask them questions or just ask for a quick autograph or doodle, which I think is, if you have an opportunity like that at your school where you can just be that intimate with a guest speaker, that's awesome. But I never took advantage of it, which I wish I did more of. But for some reason, I was just always afraid of like, oh, if I go up to the guest speaker, they're just going to view me as just this silly little student that just wants attention and just
Oh,
to get more information. I don't know why my brain always went to that direction, but I feel like my self-esteem in general was so low. Like, I never thought about that about other students
yeah,
either,
I
by
was
the
just
way.
about to ask, when you
Yeah.
do like panels at like Lightbox and stuff, when people come up to you like at your booth or whatever, when they ask you stuff, I don't think
No,
you
yeah, the
think
thing is, I wouldn't think that at all. Like, I'm always just like, wow, like I aspire to have your enthusiasm and your courage to even like come here and just go talk to so many people. But I think again, everything for me always rooted back to my fear of just speaking or putting myself out there or talking to people. Like, I literally have a demon inside my head that's just like, what makes you think you're so good to go up and ask these questions? But like, that's just a demon that you just have to shoo away and be like, okay, sit down, Michelle number two, or
that's
whoever.
one of sorry, that's
Yeah,
one of the things that I
no,
really admire about you because like you wouldn't know it like from your YouTube channel and all your videos and stuff that you struggle with that, but I really admire that you keep like it's a scary fear. It really is. So that you keep facing it over and over again.
Fight.